Welcome to New Awakenings with Edgar Cayce's A.R.E., where together through some incredible conversations, we go on beautiful journeys of discovery that might shape the way you think about things and could even change your life.
Well, our expert today is a very well-respected expert on reincarnation as well as soul writing, which she describes as a form of written meditation. I am really excited to dive into this. She's been actively involved with Edgar Cayce's A.R.E. since 1987 and has been the coordinator of the A.R.Es in Charlottesville, Virginia since August 2008. She's earned her master's in transpersonal studies and her spiritual mentor certification through Atlantic University. She's been professionally pursuing past life research and therapy for over 30 years, so she is not a newbie to the conversation. She's a prolific author who has written multiple books, and we are super excited to have her on the show today. Welcome to the show, Joanne DiMaggio. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
Never better. Never better.
And we are so thrilled that you are here to join us, and we have so many questions.
Yes.
And I was looking at your website and your information, and I see that you call yourself a reporter for the universe.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, for the longest time, I've been a writer in my professional life. And even as a child, I was doing a lot of writing. I like to do research. I like to observe. And I love doing research projects. And then taking that information and putting it into a book or an article or a lecture, whatever, and then sending that out to the universe. So I always saw myself more as the observer and then the reporter, the sharing. And I've got, going back in my own past life history, I've got a lot of past lives in which I was a scribe and I was doing basically the same work that I'm doing now. So it comes as second nature to me to do that.
Wow.
It's super interesting, but since we're on the topic of writing, I've got to ask the question, because the thing that really stood out to me the most in your introduction is the written meditation. I'm an avid meditator, but I don't feel that I'm meditating while I'm writing. So how does soul writing fit into that?
Well, the Edgar Cayce readings talk a lot about inspirational writing, which is the exact same thing as soul writing. I changed the name when I was working on my thesis for my master's degree at AU, because the idea of inspirational writing, that term has been changed since Cayce used it. So now when you talk about inspirational writing, it's about the Christian genre books. And I knew that's not what he really meant. He meant that you were getting divine assistance coming from above, coming through you, throughout your soul, out your hand, and onto the paper. So basically, it's a written form of meditation. So when you're praying, it's you talking to God. Meditating, God's talking to you. Well, soul writing is you taking notes.
Okay. Is it the same as automatic writing?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, and also there's a lot of in the Cayce readings. There's a lot of where Cayce's warning against using automatic writing, and in Hewlin Cayce's book Venture Inward, he had a whole chapter with the case histories of people who got into trouble using automatic writing, because you're not protecting yourself. You're opening yourself up, and you've got some lower level influences kind of coming through, and they're really concerned about possession. So the A.R.E. put out a booklet, I saw this in the early 90s, about ways to develop your psychic abilities, and they had some no-nos. And automatic writing and the Ouija board were like number 1 and 2 to not do.
Right.
So there is a difference between them.
So for people who don't know, what exactly is automatic writing, and how is that different than channeling and writing?
Well, it looks the same, which is why people get confused. But the difference is that with automatic writing, sometimes you have no control of your hand. You usually skip the meditation, you skip the prayer of protection. That's the most important part, surrounding yourself with that white light to keep yourself protected. It sometimes comes to you in the first person I. So there's an element of like a command. You're getting a command from somewhere in the universe to do this or do that, do this or not do that. So the tone is completely different. With soul writing, you're just getting gently nudged, and it's always in the we, the collective consciousness. We are with you. So there is a difference. I outline all of that in my. I've got several books on soul writing, and also if anybody is interested in that, I can just contact me, send me an email, and I'll send you a handout about it so that you could actually see all the differences between the two.
That's excellent. You'll hear from me because I had no idea it was a different thing and what you need to do to. Not that I've done automatic writing, but I'm curious about it.
It's really interesting too, like what she says between the I and the we, because we've interviewed a lot of different people that channel, and it's usually a collective.
Right.
Yeah.
A collective of angels, a collective of souls. But we've never had someone say, well, I channeled this one person. And that would kind of make it creepy, I think. If you've got someone in there saying, do this, do that, I think I would question that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just finished teaching for A.R.E. a 7-week course on soul writing. And the people that were in it, many people thought, I can't do this. This isn't something that I have a talent for. Anybody could do it. Mr. Casey said it's our birthright to have that information. So it's something anybody can do. You don't need a special talent for it.
Okay.
And let me clarify. I mean like one person telling you what to do. Right. Not just like the inspiration from one person.
And I was going to say, we've had people that actually channel one particular person, but then on the next go around they channel somebody else.
Right.
It's not.
But it's not like that same person saying you have to do this or you have to do that. It's more of like a guidance. Right. So I think if you had someone that's in there like, hey, you got to do this. That
well, and like a lot of people have talked to us before about if it feels coming from a place of love, you can trust that. Whereas if it seems much more of a place of, you're feeling a little strange about it, maybe there's something to look into.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I kind of want to get back into the reporter question because it made me think about, communicating with souls. And in your experience, in your research, and the work that you've done, have you interviewed anyone that's passed?
You mean if I like channeled some soul that's passed?
Yeah, kind of like that, like an interview sort of thing. I don't know. I think that would be kind of fun.
No, I haven't. But one of the things I do teach with the soul writing is that people, I have it connected to the past life work that I do. So you can actually have a conversation with your own past life aspect.
Wow.
And I do teach that, how to do that, so that you have your regression, you know who you were in a prior lifetime. You might have all kinds of questions, though, about that life that you didn't get answered in the regression, because regressions, are usually 1.5 to 2 hours. You can't get it all in.
Yeah.
But you can have a conversation with yourself through the soul writing. I've done it. I've taught other people to do it. Frank DiMaggio, who is a very prolific writer, has a whole book called Chasing Smallwood, in which he's done it with his past life in the Civil War. And it's fascinating to do that because you get answers to questions that maybe you've had for years because you don't understand, why is this going on in my life? And you can get those answers that way. It's just one of many, many, many ways to use soul writing.
Oh, Joanne, we're going to be talking because I got lots of questions.
So interesting.
Yeah. Well, so you've now touched on another topic I want to make sure that we bring up. You are an expert in reincarnation. And there is so many thoughts surrounding that particular topic. So just a level set, how would you define reincarnation?
It's just simply the continuation of the soul's journey on the earth plane. So, you've had, we all came to the earth at the same time. We were all created. It's every Casey's creation story. We all came at the same time. So this whole concept of old souls, I don't buy into that. I think when people say so-and-so is an old soul, it's because that soul has chosen to come back in physical form a lot. And so they gained an enormous amount of wisdom, right?
Right, so it might be better to call him a wise soul versus an old soul. A tired soul, maybe.
They've been around the block a few times, right? They know the ropes a little bit more than maybe a soul that's chosen not to come very often. So Yeah, so there's, I think of the body as a vehicle for us. Like, when you have a car, it takes you just so far. You could keep repairing it and fixing it up and all that stuff. But at some point, it's going to break down on you, and then you trade it in and get another car. So that's the way I see our souls doing that. We're here for whatever purpose we decide in our pre-life planning. We talk with the council of elders or guidance counselors, whatever you want to call them, and we think, I'm going to work on this issue when I come into a body again.
Right.
And then souls around you that travel with you, members of your soul family, decide they're going to come with you, and they may look different. They've changed their gender and their role, but they'll have a very specific purpose in coming in with you to help you with whatever it is your soul's mission is. And so that's what we do over and over again, working on all the issues that we can only work on the earth.
Right. So basically, it's the act of trading it in for a new model. So what you're saying is that I should actually answer that phone call about those people trying to reach me about my extended warranty. Is that what you're saying?
So, kind of going back to that, when you decide what your soul needs to work on, people have different ideas about soul contracts. Do you say, okay, well, I want to come back as a soul that learns about, whatever? Or do you say, I want to come back as a little girl who's 6 years old, do you get super specific on the make and model of the car? Or do you just say, I want an SUV versus a sports car?
Well, you do choose your parents. That's your choice.
Mm-hmm.
I love to tell my children that, because then I say, you picked me. What do you want?
Now you're stuck with me, kid.
Yeah, exactly. What you do, you look at what issues from a prior lifetime that you didn't finish. So you've got some unfinished business. Something happened to you in that life, or you did something to somebody in that life and you never resolved it. So it's hanging out there, right? So then you decide, now I have clients who they're working on stuff that happened 1,000 years ago. All right, they had lives in between that, but it's never been quite the right life. So you look at what is going to be the socioeconomic environment that I'm going to be born into. And then who are my parents going to be? Why am I choosing those two people? What are they going to offer me? What lessons are they going to teach? So it's really all about fulfilling, resolving those karmic issues that you brought in with you. So that's how the life is designed. It's designed around that. So you have your mission statement, you know what you want to work on. Some people will say, I want to work on abandonment, because they may have abandoned somebody in a prior life, and now they're going to, you've got to balance things out, right, in the universe where all this harmony going on. So people around them will go, okay, I'm going to come in with you when you become George. And at some point, I'm going to abandon you so that you can work through that karma and put that behind you so you can move on.
Gotcha. So in the past life, I was definitely a much skinnier man than this means, because now I'm balancing it out by...
Put in your order now for your next body.
There you go.
So, hey, you know what? I'm going to do that. No, let's not. Okay, here's the burning question in my mind. Most people that have watched the show know that I'm a little more on the pragmatic mindset. And so I've undergone a past life regression a few times to get in touch with my past lives, or to get some idea of what I've gone through in the past, to see how that's affecting me in this lifetime. Inevitably, I think I'm being regressed, but at the same time, am I really just making up stories? Like, how can someone delineate between your own imagination and true past life memories?
Everybody says that going into it. I'm afraid I'm going to be making this up. And what I say to them, and it's not until they actually go through it that they realize they couldn't have possibly made that story up. And then I'll say to them, so did you spend time before our session thinking about a story you were going to tell me? And then, we spent a couple hours together and you actually paid me to listen to your story. Would you have done that? And they said, no. If there's emotion that comes up during the course of the session, that is a true memory, because I cannot make you cry. I can't laugh. I don't tell jokes during a regression. You'll feel it. You'll feel it. And if it answers all the questions that you have about what's going on in your life now, questions that you had no answers for prior to the session. It's a healing, it's a transformational tool that we've been given to help us understand the continuum of our soul's journey. So yeah, it's a common concern about whether I'm making this up or not. And I have not had anybody tell me at the end of a session, yeah, I'm sure I made that up. They're sure it was real.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
So I have a long time ago I did a past life regression. Long time ago. And I don't know. I mean, it was in a big group and I wasn't really, I was kind of
in a past life.
maybe. But I haven't done one since because I thought, okay, so what if I do this and I sit and have just a very serious session with someone and I find out I was awful, like a child killer or something. I don't know that I could get past that in this life. Like, what do you do if you find out something that you were really terrible? I mean, I just.
Well, you know what? I don't know if this is comforting at all, but we've all done things that we're ashamed of, or that we don't want to admit, or that are they're cringe-worthy lifetimes, right? But on the same token, you've also had beautiful lifetimes in which you lived an exemplary life with nothing but love in it, and no trauma. It's just part of our journey. And spirit will not send you a lifetime to review that you couldn't handle. And it also will only send you the lifetimes in which there are issues that you're working on right now. So it's not a pleasure, because it's not like, some people say, I only want to do it for entertainment purposes. I won't work with them. Because to me, it's sacred work. It's healing work.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so, you have to be willing to see the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And really, when we're going through it, I have you stepping back from it and watching it as if it were a movie, so that you can detach yourself from it. I know some therapists have you going through the emotions. I mean, if the emotions come up, we'll work with that. But I don't ask you to get in there and feel what it felt like to get that spear in your,
Oh.
Right.
So anyway, it just is, like I said, I think spirit only sends you what you can absolutely deal with in this life.
Okay.
And sometimes these things happen spontaneously, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be guided with someone like you. I experienced something similar. My very first one was spontaneous. I was being in a Reiki circle. I was receiving a lot of energy from someone who just set me out there. But the story or the life that I lived during that spontaneous regression was not a fun one. And since then, it was many years ago, since then I've been trying to put the pieces together as to why I was shown that particular piece. So can you give us an example of how someone can take a past life memory and use it to help you in this lifetime?
Well, like I said before, it usually is because it'll answer a specific question that they have. I have one client who she doesn't, she and her ex, I'm doing a whole project right now on soulmates. So I'm doing a lot of research into people with soulmate relationships. And, one in particular was like, I don't understand. He's totally disrespectful to me in this life. There's so much anger in him. And she just listed all the things that were going on. Well, then she goes back to the previous lifetime and she finds out where it all began. This is what happened 1,200 years ago that set the stage for this recurring karmic dance to go on between the two of them. So I think that's, and I have had so many people, this is so humbling for me when this happens, when they contact me and say, I feel like a heaviness has been lifted from me because now I understand. Because consciously, some of these answers would never come to you. It's only when you're able to really get in there and find out what started this, what's the root cause of it, which is why past life work is so fascinating to me, because you usually only need one session to get to the bottom of something and to heal it, as opposed to regular psychotherapy in which you're going back week after week after week. That's because with past life work, you're going right to the root cause of it. What happened to get this started? What set this parallel in motion? And I think that to me is just the most fascinating part of my job, is to is to be like a detective, right?
Right.
You're going looking at clues to find out the answers, and then once you get the answers, the case is solved.
I like that. So you're a detective and a reporter. So I have a question. So I understand what you're saying about the past lives, and I do believe it's an incredible tool to help you heal things that you didn't know how to heal otherwise. But I've heard also that from people that have had near-death experiences, when you die, you go into this state of bliss and everything is perfect and there's all the love and it's hard. You don't, sometimes you don't want to come back, but you need to come back because you have your kids or whatever. So if that's true, if you're in this state of bliss and perfection, I feel like here now in today's, like, we're working with people and we're talking with mediums and psychics and trying to figure out how to make ourselves better so we can get to that point. So then if we're there when we die, why would we come back?
You come back because you still have things to learn that you can only learn in a physical body that you can't learn while you're in spirit.
Oh.
So it's all about, you know, Mr. Casey said, whatever starts on the earth has to end on the earth. So you come in with a curriculum. That's how I look at it.
Okay.
There's a school and you're the student and, you say, I want to work on, I'm going to take these classes. I'm going to take a class on greediness, or I'm going to take a class on unconditional love, or I'm going to take a class on a trauma of, I don't know. There's just so many. You think of them. And then you set it up so that you can come and learn that, because you can't learn that while you're in spirit. This is all about, actually it's cyclical, right? Because you are trying to get back to spirit where you were. You can opt. There are many souls who opt not to come back. They opt to go to a different planet. But it's a school. We're here. So once you graduate, you're on your own.
That's a party. That graduation.
Yeah.
So we see a book over your right shoulder called The Inner Light.
Yeah, my latest book.
Tell us about that.
Well, this is going to reveal my age. As a teenager, I was president of Beatles fan club. I started it in 1964. I had it for 8 years, and I was really immersed in it. And a lot of things happened in those 8 years. It was the 60s, don't forget. Having been raised Catholic, I simultaneously was having a lot of questions about my faith, and having gone to 12 years of Catholic schooling. So when the club ended in 1972, and I've got chapters that talk about what it was like to be a president of a Beatles fan club. I ended up being president of the Paul McCartney fan club, and I ended up being the national chapter director for Apple Records.
Wow.
So involved as a teenager doing this. I had meetings and traveled to New York to the Bangladesh concert that George Harrison gave. And then when it all ended in 1972, because they shut down all the clubs because there were more Beatles, then I kind of went to sleep for a while. And then in 1987, Shirley MacLaine came along with her Out on a Limb. It became a mini-series. And I watched that, and it rekindled my interest in metaphysical topics, because I had been reading books about Edgar Casey and written by Jeff Stern and Ruth Montgomery and all those people in the early 60s. Then I forgot about it when the Beatles came out. And so lo and behold, here comes Out on a Limb. And 1987 was my year. I joined the A.R.E. that year. I started my own past life research organization, and I just immersed myself in that world again. And over the years, I've always wondered, how did somebody like me, coming from an Italian-American Catholic family on the south side of Chicago, in a neighborhood that never used the word reincarnation, that was not something on their vocabulary.
You might find yourself reincarnated if you did, right?
How did I become a past life therapist? Why did I become so passionate about past life work? And I wondered, did it have something to do with the Beatles? Did they plant the seed of spirituality in my soul? And so that's what I wanted to find out. So I went back in, I dug out all my old newsletters because I had kept them. I had done a newsletter every month for 8 years.
Wow.
I went back and I was looking for clues. Did I ever say anything? Did this ever come up? And then I started reading. I have about 50, 60 books on the Beatles, and I started researching to find out what they said on different spiritual topics. And of course, George Harrison just is a treasure trove of those. He and John Lennon primarily. So I started reading and putting the pieces together and realized that they planted those seeds in me. And if they planted the seeds in me, they must have planted them in others of my generation. So that's what that research was all about. And by the way, while I was doing the research for this book, I found out that both Paul McCartney and John Lennon used a form of soul writing. They didn't call it that. I'm sure they didn't even know what that was in writing some of their music.
Wow.
Yesterday, Across the Universe, Nowhere Man, Let It Be, those all came to them using the same exact process that Casey describes when we do soul writing.
Very interesting.
That's so cool.
So that tied it together even more. And then, I started to do research. I started to interview other Beatle fans my age and found out that there were several of them who were introduced to Edgar Casey and to the A.R.E. because of the Beatles. So
wow,
wrapped it all up for me.
Wow, great.
Those are 2 and 2 that I never would have put together.
Absolutely.
Edgar Casey and the Beatles. That's pretty awesome.
So thank you for doing that for us.
Yeah,
All right. Well, this has been tremendous fun. I've learned a lot. If someone wanted to reach out to you to either get your book or book a session with you, right? What is the best way for someone to do that?
I go to my website, which is JoanneDiMaggio.com, JoanneDiMaggio.com. You could read about the different types of regressions that I do. You can book them right online. I do them all by Zoom, so I'm working all over the world. And all of my books are on that website. You want to see the books that I've written. And also there's a blog there, different articles. I do a monthly newsletter. You can sign up for that to talk about the different research projects that I'm working on. People want to volunteer for them, they're more than welcome to do that. And any kind of classes I'm teaching or conferences I'm going to be at are also on there. So it's a pretty inclusive website. And if they want to email me for any reason, it's Joanne, Joanne, at JoanneDiMaggio.com.
All right. That's great. Well, thank you, Joanne, so much for coming on the show. It was an absolute pleasure meeting you.
Same here. I've loved every moment.
Wonderful. Well, if you missed any part of this interview or any of our other interviews, all you need to do is go to edgarcasey.org/resources. You'll find the show and all of its episodes laid out there directly for you, so it's super easy for you to catch up. Really appreciate you tuning in. That does it for this episode, so we'll see you on the next episode of New Awakenings with Edgar Casey's A.R.E.